Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Office of the Chief Auditor's update. As Kent said, I'm Stephanie Hunter, and I work alongside our Chief Auditor, Barb Vanich. Before I dive into our agenda today, I would like to thank Tim, Board Member Thompson, Kent, Bryant, and all those who have contributed to this live event. It's been great thus far, and I'm excited to present OCA's update. I must also let you know that any views expressed are my own and do not necessarily reflect the views of the board as a whole, any individual board member, or other staff. So to kick things off, we'll have a polling question. And which PCAOB standard setting project was finalized during the summer of 2022? Is it A, quality control, B, confirmations, C, other auditors? Give you a few moments. Okay, let's see how we did here. Ooh. Let's see, 56% said quality control, but not quite. So the answer is C, other auditors. And I see about 30% got that, but that's okay. That was the summer of 2022 for us. So, and after speaking about, I'll move along. After speaking about other auditors, which is our recently completed project in the Office of the Chief Auditor, I'll return in a few minutes to actually update on the quality control and the confirmation short-term projects with anticipated actions in 2022. So you will hear about those. But first though, and I thought this was interesting. Earlier, I know the polling question Kent had for everyone was, what's your favorite season? And I would usually tend to agree that autumn is my favorite season. But based on my participation in the other auditors project over the years, I would say probably for 2022, it was this summer because we actually got it done. So the board voted to approve the other auditors project in June, and we got SEC approval in August. The amendments specify certain procedures for the lead auditor, which is the accounting firm issuing the auditor's report, to perform when planning and supervising an audit that involves other auditors. An important point for smaller audit firms, which we're focusing on today, the board's risk-based and scalable approach to designing the amendments is intended to maintain a level playing field for all auditors choosing to involve other auditors in their audit, regardless of their size. As stated in our previous public releases, working with other auditors can differ from working with people in the same firm. The lead auditor may encounter differences in business practices, market conditions, and cultural norms between auditors in different parts of the world. In addition, audit firms involved in the audit may have different systems of quality control. Therefore, the amendments are focused on increasing the lead auditor's involvement in and evaluation of the work of other auditors. So you may wonder, what are some of those highlights? And that's what I plan to provide for you all today. So I would like to first highlight important aspects of the amendments in the area of audit planning. So what we've termed in our release, our adopting release, as the sufficiency of participation determination. The amendments require that the engagement partner determine whether his or her firm's participation in the audit is sufficient for the firm to carry out the responsibilities of a lead auditor and report as such. In general, the sufficiency requirement is intended to increase the likelihood that the firm issuing the auditor's report meaningfully participates in the audit. Imposing the sufficiency requirement on the engagement partner is consistent with the engagement partner's existing responsibilities under PCAOB standards for planning the audit and for assigning tasks to and supervising engagement team members. The amendments require that when making the sufficiency determination, the engagement partner take into account the following three considerations in combination: importance, risk, and extent of supervision. The amendments in this area also provide considerations for the engagement partner to use in making this determination and require that the audit's engagement quality reviewer review the determination. Now moving on, still in the area of audit planning, but in the area of independence. The amendments require that the lead auditor, when determining the engagement's compliance with independence and ethics requirements, understand the other auditor's knowledge of those requirements and experience in applying them. The amendments also require that the lead auditor obtain and review written affirmations regarding the other auditor's policies and procedures related to those requirements and regarding compliance with the requirements, and a description of certain auditor-client relationships related to independence. Next, I would like to highlight important aspects of the amendments in the area of audit supervision. The amendments require that the lead auditors supervise other auditors and inform other auditors about the scope of their work, identified risks of material misstatement, and certain other key matters. The amendments also require that the lead auditor and other auditors communicate about the audit procedures to be performed and any changes needed to the procedures. In addition, the amendments require the lead auditor to obtain and review written affirmations from other auditors about their performance of work in accordance with the lead auditor's instructions, and to direct other auditors to provide certain documentation about their work. Now here on the slide, the last bullet refers to AS 1206. This rulemaking rescinds an interim standard, which is AS 1205, but carries forward and strengthens some of its requirements in a new standard that applies to those infrequent situations where the lead auditor divides responsibility for an audit with another accounting firm. In these situations, the lead auditor refers in the audit report to the work of a referred to auditor. Finally, on the other auditors project, the amendments will take effect for audits of financial statements for fiscal years ending on or after December 15th, 2024. And also, here on the slide, you will see that the amendments and new standard apply to all audits of issuers, including emerging growth companies and SEC-registered brokers and dealers. You can find more information on the project, including upcoming implementation efforts, on the PCAOB's standards site. Okay. Moving on to our second polling question to get a sense from our audience. What level of familiarity do you have with the board/OCA updates in 2022 to the standard setting agenda? Is it for you little to none, B, some, or C, I am aware of the short-term and mid-term projects as well as the anticipated timing for each project? Okay, so it looks like a bit more than half of you have some familiarity, so that's good. That's a good sign. Okay, keeping with the CPE compliance for the day, code 848. Again, one more time, code 848. Okay, now moving on to our standard setting and research agendas. Standard setting is foundational to the PCAOB's efforts to protect investors, which we've heard a lot about today. Our goal is to set high-quality standards informed by our oversight activities, engagement with investors and other stakeholders, including through our advisory groups, discussion with SEC staff, which we'll hear from in a bit, the work of other standard-setting bodies, and other relevant inputs and developments. In May and October of this year, OCA made updates to its standard setting and research agendas to communicate the board's intention to pursue a significantly expanded standard setting agenda, and also to enhance transparency to the public on OCA's expectations for timing of these actions. Specifically, through the standard setting agenda, the PCAOB expects to strengthen our standards regarding audit firm quality control systems and audit firm transparency. As you may have seen, the agendas will be dynamic. They will change in response to developments from PCAOB oversight activities, engagement with investors and other stakeholders, including through the PCAOB's advisory groups, which is what led us to add a project to the research agenda between May and October of this year. Also informed by discussion with SEC staff and other relevant inputs. For example, as part of our October 2022 update, we added 2 short-term standard setting projects where we expect to take action during the coming 12 months. With respect to our interim standards, those standards that the PCAOB adopted back in April of 2003 from the AICPA, we are considering changes to auditing standards in the AS 1000 series. These are AS 1001, Responsibilities and Functions of the Independent Auditor, AS 1005, Independence, AS 1010, Training and Proficiency of the Independent Auditor, and AS 1015, Due Professional Care in the Performance of Work. In conjunction with the AS 1000 series, we will consider changes to AS 2815, the meaning of present fairly in conformity with generally accepted accounting principles. You may have noticed that we took audit evidence off the research agenda and added a project to our short-term agenda for amendments for technology-assisted data analysis. And you'll see that here at the bottom of the slide. The results of PCAOB's research project on data and technology indicate that auditors are expanding their use of technology-based tools to plan and perform audits. While the research results indicate that PCAOB standards do not preclude auditors' use of technology, it may be necessary to update the following auditing standards to address certain aspects of designing and performing audit procedures that use technology-assisted data analysis. Those are AS 1105, which is audit evidence, AS 2110, which is identifying and assessing risks and material misstatement, and AS 2301, the auditor's responses to the risks of material misstatement. Staff considerations will take into account the requirements of other PCAOB standards, observations from the board's oversight activities, changes to audit firms' methodologies, the activities of other standard setters and regulators, and information from investors and other stakeholders. A number of other short-term projects, which you see on the slide, remain on the agenda for May of this year. There are a couple of points I would like to address, as I noted after the first polling question on the quality control and confirmations short-term standard setting projects, which we expect to have anticipated actions on in 2022. So first, the quality control project. We are considering how PCAOB quality control, or QC standards, should be revised to enhance and strengthen requirements related to a firm's QC system, and our anticipated timing for a proposal on this project is in 2022, which leaves us with a couple of months. Effective QC systems are crucial for consistent high-quality audits and other engagements under PCAOB standards. PCAOB QC standards require a firm to design and implement a quality control system that provides reasonable assurance that the firm's personnel comply with applicable professional standards and the firm's standards of quality. The project has taken into account developments since PCAOB QC standards were first adopted, including evolving developments in audit practices and in use of technology, and improvements in monitoring and remediation processes. A note on smaller audit firms and scalability. A wide variety of firms are subject to the PCAOB's quality control standards, ranging from large firms with thousands of partners that are members of global networks to those of you that are part of small firms with just one or two partners with a local practice. So while the basic objectives of the quality control system are the same across all firms, the processes and controls necessary to achieve those objectives could vary significantly. Therefore, the project is considering revisions that would result in a future PCAOB QC standard that is scalable, so a firm can tailor its QC system appropriately based on the firm's size and complexity and the nature of the engagements it performs, commensurate with applicable risk to quality. Second, the confirmations project. We are considering changes to the confirmations process, including how AS 2310 should be revised to reflect changes in technology, as well as to align more closely with the PCAOB's risk assessment standards. And we are targeting to issue a reproposal in 2022. As you may realize, AS 2310 establishes requirements for the use of confirmations in an audit, including requirements for designing, performing, and evaluating the results of confirmation procedures. While the standard has remained largely unchanged since its issuance in 1992, the following developments have taken place. There have been changes in technology. Auditors are now utilizing various methods to send and receive confirmations, including the use of intermediaries. Additionally, many auditors are expanding their use of technology-based tools to perform alternative procedures. And the board adopted the risk assessment standards. And AS 2310 predates the adoption of these standards and therefore does not expressly prompt auditors to consider the risks of material misstatement when designing confirmation requests, including risk of material misstatement related to fraud. Our stats analysis will also be informed by the board's 2009 concept release on confirmations and the subsequent 2010 proposed standard related to confirmations, as well as comment letters that we receive thereon. Okay, now moving on to our midterm standard setting projects and research projects. We have 4 midterm projects on our standard setting agenda. Substantive analytical procedures, our project on fraud, the interim ethics and independence standards, and interim standards at large. And again, you'll note the theme here is that we are targeting interim standards that were adopted by the board in April of 2003 from the AICPA. For these midterm projects, board action is not anticipated within the next 12 months, although I can tell you that PCAOB staff are working actively to move these projects into the short-term category. Our research agenda continues to have a project on data and technology. Earlier this month, we added a research project on firm and engagement performance metrics. To assist the PCAOB with our research efforts, the agenda includes an email address for stakeholders to share with us analyses and data on the related research topics. In addition to the projects included on our standard setting and research agendas, we continue to actively monitor a broad range of current and emerging audit issues. Our standard setting and research agendas do not include everything our standard setting staff is working on. For example, our staff devotes substantial resources to monitoring other topics not on the agendas. These topics include activities of other standard setters, as well as emerging and recurring audit issues. Okay, here we just want to remind you of ways to keep current with standard setting activities, and in doing so, you may want to contact OCA. We have our PCAOB standards website, which has all of the standards, rules, and auditing interpretations. It has pages for all of our standard setting and research projects, implementation resources, most recently with our specialist and auditing estimates projects, and also an implementation page that's been started for other auditors and we will continue to work on. Also staff guidance. We encourage you to sign up to follow updates and receive notifications via emails that describe significant new postings. And you can always contact us in standards via the inquiry line, via a web form or the phone number listed here. One more CPE code for this session, 473. And one more time, 473. Okay, and now moving on to our last polling question. Be honest. How likely are you to keep current with PCAOB standard setting initiatives going forward? For you, would you say A, not very likely, B, likely, or C, very likely? There's a lot going on. Okay, let's see. All right, so again, such as the second polling question, we've got a bit over 50% that are likely to stay current. And again, I think that's great. We do have a lot going on in the Office of the Chief Auditor, with many projects, a couple that we have anticipated timing for this year, and many more that we will be working on in the coming years. So again, feel free to interact, visit the site, contact us if you need to, and I think that's it. Unless there are any, okay, so no questions, but again, feel free if you have things down the road, there are ways to contact us in OCA. So, and it was very nice to interact and provide the session for today on the Office of the Chief Auditor.